In the ballroom, in the bedroom, and even in the bathroom. That's where Donald Trump allegedly kept classified documents. Now he's being charged on 37 criminal counts for his mishandling of confidential papers he took with him when he left the White House. Among other things, Trump is accused of willful retention of national defense information, including nuclear and weapons programs, and conspiracy to obstruct justice.
He's the first president in the history of the United States to face federal charges. The unsealing of the indictment against Donald Trump revealed 37 counts against him, including violations of the Espionage Act. The claims are linked to the mishandling of classified documents, many of which the FBI recovered from his Florida home, Mar-a-Lago, last summer. Special counsel Jack Smith gave a brief statement following the unsealing of the charges.
Our laws that protect national defense information are critical to the safety and security of the United States, and they must be enforced. Violations of those laws put our country at risk.
But US President Joe Biden had little to say.
President Biden, have you spoken to Attorney General Merrick Garland yet?
I have not spoken to him at all. I'm not going to speak to him. I have no comment on what happened.
Any concern about political violence?
This is the second time former President Donald Trump has been indicted. The first by the state of New York over his financial affairs. He's due to appear in a federal court in Miami on Tuesday, but is still insisting that he will fight for the White House once again.
For more analysis, we can now speak to Vida Johnson. She's an associate law professor at Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Welcome to the day, Ms. Johnson. At 49 pages of indictment, 37 charges. What stands out to you?
Well, I think first off, it's just a sad day for the American people that a former president is alleged to have betrayed our national security and our safety in the ways that are alleged in this indictment. It's really just historic and unprecedented. But it is a good day in a sense that, once again, the DOJ is proving that nobody is above the law, isn't it? I think that's absolutely right. I think in a democracy, rule of law is essential. And that means that anyone who violates the law, but in particular, powerful people who violate the law, need to be held to account. And that seems to be what the Department of Justice is doing today. Mm-hmm. Out of the 37 charges, which one struck you as surprising or something that you maybe didn't expect to see? Well, I think, I don't know that anyone was expecting any of these charges. But, the first 31 charges relate to the retention of these incredibly serious and sensitive documents. These documents pertain to our military capabilities, our nuclear capabilities, our vulnerabilities as a country, the vulnerabilities of our allies. So I think what is alleged to have been kept by former President Trump, it's just all very serious. And so I think the charges altogether are absolutely stunning. The amount of evidence that appears to be against him, including a lot of the evidence against him are his own words and information that's from people very close to him. And so all of the charges stand out. But I'd say that the conspiracy to obstruct justice charge is probably one of the most serious. It shows a real corrupt motive, if the allegations are true. And it carries 20 years in prison, that one count alone. Yeah. Now, Trump and his supporters say these charges are more of the same witch hunt against him. They've been doing that for years now. Let's hear what one of his defenders thinks.
I think it's a complete waste of time and money and resources. There's a lot going on in the world, and the fact that they took the time to do all that to one man, which I don't think he meant any harm, is ridiculous, and it's unfortunate. What do you say to that, Ms. Johnson?
Well, I think it's pretty telling that this indictment is from Florida. Florida grand jurors were the ones who indicted him. That's his current home state. It's a red state, a Republican state. And so between that fact and the fact that these charges are being prosecuted by a special prosecutor, so not someone appointed by President Biden, I think that that shows that the fact that these charges are not politically motivated.
Yeah. And how good a case does the prosecution have now that we've been able to actually look at the indictment?
Well, based on just the review of the indictment, which is all any of us have seen, it seems to be a strong case. As I said earlier, it's clear that a lot of the evidence against Donald Trump are his own words, including knowledge that he knew that the documents were still secret and classified. So unlike what he's been saying for months, that he declassified the documents previously, that's certainly not true based on his own recorded statements. The fact that some of the evidence against him comes from his own lawyers is people he's hired, people very close to him, are the source of much of the evidence. So I think the case against him appears to be very strong, but of course this is just such an early stage.
Mm-hmm. Donald Trump is, of course, not just a former president, he's also running for another term. And Special Counsel Jack Smith has pledged a speedy trial, probably also looking at the campaign that is already underway. What kind of timeline do you think we're looking at here?
That's a really difficult question. I'm sure that he and his current attorneys will want as much time as possible to prepare. But of course, that is going to run right into the election season. I mean, he's already on the campaign trail, as are some of his Republican rivals. So I do think this complicates some of that quite a bit. But at the time that the conduct he's alleged to have committed took place, he was not a political candidate. And I think that's important, too.
That was Associate Law Professor Vita Johnson from Georgetown University. Thank you so much for your analysis.
Thanks so much for having me.
For more analysis, let's bring in DW US analyst William Glucroft. William, 49 pages of indictment, 37 charges. What stands out to you and how dangerous is this for Trump?
I mean, the sweeping charges here really do stand out for me. It's not just one or the other. You know, when you look at the what's going on in the state of New York, even critics of Donald Trump will say it might be a flimsy case. This one easily could be as well, but it's just so in depth what federal prosecutors have gone after Trump for, and also how much they're hitting on intent. Is really, really interesting here. I think a lot of people think about U.S. classified documents in a very sort of James Bond sort of way, that it's a very official system, very professional, but actually the U.S. classification system is a mess with so many people involved, so many ways for there to be leaks. It's not so unusual, as we saw with President Joe Biden, that classified documents could end up being handled inappropriately. But the difference here, what federal prosecutors are saying, is the intent to mishandle them and the intent to really just let them be out sitting around for visitors to the Mar-a-Lago estate to be seen looking at, and for Donald Trump to show off as, according to some of the evidence that we've so far seen. So it's really the intent or just the malfeasance here that U.S. prosecutors are going after Trump for that actually quite stands out very much.
Right. Of course, William, knowing Donald Trump, he'll be able to spin this in his favor. Or is this perhaps going to throw his campaign off course?
Well, if there's one thing that U.S. elections, the U.S. legal system, and the great American sport of baseball have in common, it's that it ain't over till it's over. There is a very, very long road here for this kind of prosecution. There are many ways that Trump's defense attorneys can prolong it, delay it, try to get it thrown out, throw all kind of spanner in the works. This could go a very long time. We don't know what the outcome is going to be, let alone the twists and turns that this prosecution of this case might actually take, while in parallel you have a 2024 campaign. And it should be noted, there is nothing under U.S. law that prohibits a charged or convicted person from running or potentially even serving as president. So the U.S. really is in quite uncharted territory here, as you heard in that report. A first time ever a sitting or former president has been charged with any kind of crime. So we really do not know where this might go.
All right. DW's William Clucraft, thank you so much for that.